What's going on, people? Welcome to the Opposition preview, the first one of the new season. And I'm joined by Lewis from Beesotted Brentford podcast. Make sure to check them out. The link will be in the description down below as we face Brentford on Sunday, the opener away from home. As always, if you do enjoy the content, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Lewis is here. We've arrived. The new season upon us. How you been?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, D. Yeah, and thanks for having me on. All ready to go, I think.
How are you feeling going into the new season as a Brentford fan? Of course, we as Palace fans, I doubt maybe some of them may follow Brentford closely, but I doubt everyone knows. Many people know Brentford as good as you do. How has it been?
Well, it's been mixed, really. We've been quite quiet in the transfer market. I think the good news is that we've not lost any players that we wanted to hold on to, although there is some discussion at the moment about Johan Wieser perhaps being heading off to Wolves, which I hope doesn't happen. And we've had a whole series of nearly purchases in the transfer market. So Gray from Leeds was kind of, I can't remember if he had a medical or didn't, but he got basically gazumped from under our noses by Spurs at the last minute, which was a real shame, actually, because he's a very exciting young player. Apart from that, we had a similar situation just last week with a player called Kajuste, who I think is now, who apparently we weren't happy with his medical. But I understand that he's going or is likely to go to Ipswich for the start of the season. So clearly they are happier with his medical than Brentford were. But the good news is that a few days ago we secured the first real signing of the summer, which is a player called Fabio Carvalho, who joins us from Liverpool via... Well, originally started out at Fulham, got sold to Liverpool for 5 million. And we've paid, I think it's 27 with all kind of add-ons. But he's right kind of age profile, young player, very exciting, attacking midfielder who can score goals. So that's given everyone a bit of a lift. I understand that we're still trying to get a couple more signings through. But the main thing is, I mean, last season for us was absolutely dogged by injuries, almost from start to finish. And most of those players are now back and fairly healthy. So, fingers crossed we can keep them that way. We've still got a couple of players missing. Rico Henry, one of our very best players, the left back, it has not fully recovered yet from his ligament damage last season. And Hickey as well, the right back or right wing back, still out. But I think both are due back imminently. They won't be ready for Sunday, but they're on their way back. And then the other kind of thing that seems to hang over us for the last couple of years is Ivan Toney, who's still a Brentford player. Everyone knows he wants to move on, but there hasn't been a huge amount of interest in him, perhaps surprisingly, although there is talk of the Saudi Arabian League offering him really, really silly money. So it's possible he may join them, but he's with us for the moment. The final thing to say there is that we did sign a replacement for Toney back in January, Igor Thiago, and the Brentford injury jinx kicked in again, and unfortunately he's not able to play. He got injured in pre-season and is not going to be fit until the new year. So, we hope the curse is on its way out. But it's been a very difficult 12 months for the club, really, having so many quality players, unavailable.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of Brentford fans frustrated with those in charge. I don't know if you agree with them. Of course, there's always going to be people that's concerned. As you've mentioned, you've only made 2 signings so far. Most recently Carvalho from Liverpool. But for you, in terms of looking ahead to the new season, based on everything that you've said, are you optimistic? How are you feeling exactly based on your transfer business?
Well, I think that the most important thing of all is that we held on to our manager, Thomas Frank, who has proved that he's a really shrewd tactician, a fantastic coach, and capable of making the right decisions within games as well. So there was interest in him. He was linked with several roles, none of which came to fruition. So he's still in charge, which is hugely important. And whatever team we put out there, having him running the show gives me confidence. And I think if you look back at where we were 2 years ago, we finished 8th. It really looked like a great opportunity last season to kick on. And because of the injuries, that never happened. And we ended up, not a million miles away from relegation. So, but I think last season was a blip, and I think we will kick on again this year. I'm expecting a kind of mid-table finish, but I don't think we'll be flirting with relegation like we were last season. So I'm hoping we can get another couple of players in who can improve the squad in the next few weeks. Hope we don't lose anybody. I mean, we need to cash in on Ivan Toney, no doubt about that. And that's been a distraction for far too long now. But I think once we can be clear who we've got available, there's no reason we shouldn't be competitive as we were 2 years ago.
And with Toney, I think the biggest thing about it, looking from the outside in, is maybe some of the comments that he's made towards Brentford. I don't know how you feel about them. I haven't spoke to regarding those comments. But what's the feeling like towards Toney? Even though he's come back, do some fans want him to go, regardless of how good he is? Because I'll be honest, I'm a bit shocked that he hasn't had that much interest from Premier League clubs.
Yeah,
that is.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And I think the fan base is fairly split, really. I think you're quite right. He said some things over the years which have not really enamored him to supporters, particularly kind of on social media, disrespecting the club, and kind of he's capable of giving the impression that he's bigger than Brentford. Having said that, he was absolutely instrumental in getting us into the Premier League in the first place. Whatever money we do end up getting for him, it will dwarf what we paid to Peterborough back in the day. And he's the first England player that Brentford's produced, certainly in my lifetime. So we've got a lot to be grateful to him for. And I think, people need to remember that. On the other hand, it has, like I said before, it's been a big distraction. And I do think the time is perfect now for us to part company. If we can get a decent fee for him, and he'll go with everyone's kind of good wishes, I think. It was frustrating he didn't extend his contract around the time of the ban kicking in, because that could have prevented the situation we're in now, where we're desperate to sell so that we don't end up him heading off for no transfer fee at all, which will be the case in a year's time.
Has he got a year left on his contract?
He's got 1 year left, yeah.
Wow.
And that puts him in, and potential buyers in a much stronger position than the club, So it's a really difficult situation, and we need it resolved as soon as possible, really.
Yeah. In terms of your thoughts towards Palace, what have you made of us under Oliver Glasner? I mean, we've had a strong end to the season. We've lost Elise, of course, in this transfer window, but brought in 3 players. I'm not too sure if you know about them: Kamada, Riyadh, and also Ismail Assar, who previously played for Watford. Do you think Palace have the chances of finishing top 10 next season, or do you think it might be a bit too much the upcoming season?
I would have thought so. I mean, I'm presuming. I mean, Elise, I think, was probably outside, if you like, the top 6 or 7 clubs in the country. One of maybe 2 or 3 really standout players. Is that good and just beautiful to watch. I loved watching him, particularly combining with Eze. And looking at your season last year, things seemed to click, not just with the change of manager, but also with having those 2 available. And you started playing some wonderful football as well. So Palace finished as strongly as anyone last season. So I don't see, despite losing your biggest talent, there's still enough quality there and hopefully he'll hang on to Gahey as well, because he's another quality player. But it looked like the manager has really got you playing good football. Wharton's in there. He looks like a really good player as well. So I don't know much about your new signings, but it does sound as though, I've been able to see for myself just how much quality there is in your first team there. So losing a real jewel like Elise, sounds as though, although I don't know much about the players, it sounds though you spent quite wisely. And I can't see any reason why you wouldn't pick up where you left off last season.
Yeah. In terms of looking into this game in a bit more detail, you mentioned that you're looking to do more business. So that would, it's a bit too late. I doubt you sign anyone ready for this game. And
No.
you've mentioned, two key players, in my opinion, Hickey and Henry potentially missing. Are you a bit worried that this game is coming a bit early, or do you think you've got enough in your squad?
I think pre-season suggested that we're going to be really good going forward, and actually we've got almost like an embarrassment of riches up front at the moment, because we've still got Toney, we've got Brian and Bumo and Wisa, who are both quality, really exciting players with a great understanding between the two of them. So we've got a really strong front three there, with Kevin Sharder as well, and who I imagine will start on the bench. Got Carvalho, who I imagine will also start on the bench. We've got a well-established midfield in place with Matthias Jensen, Christian Norgard, and probably Vitaly Janelt will be the third one there. The wide players in defence are the concern, because we've not, for whatever reason, picked up anyone who can offer real cover in either of those two fullback positions. So and there's no one. We've got Roslev, who can play right back and will do a good job there, but he's not in the same class as Hickey. Left back is a real worry for me at the moment, because we're going to have to play someone out of position there. But we've got Ethan Pinnock at the back, who is, perhaps the most underrated player in the Premier League, as far as I'm concerned, an absolute elite player. So in the centre, the centre of defence, we look strong. It's on the flanks at the back that I'm worried. And the other worry for me is the keeper, Mark Flecken, who got off to a really poor start last season. Picked up quite noticeably in the second half of the season, but has been letting in some very soft goals in pre-season. So there's a few areas in on the pitch where we're vulnerable, no doubt about that. But I think we'll be good going forward.
So in terms of what you've seen so far in pre-season, what would you say are your strengths and weaknesses? Is it just a simple case of you got very good options up front? Is it maybe keeping possession, midfield, set pieces? Like what's really stood out to you in terms of one thing, and maybe one thing that Palace could potentially target?
I think it will be just our cohesion at the back. We've been letting in soft goals left, right, and centre. And while we might try and outscore teams, if we let 3 goals in against you, I think we're going to struggle to score 4. And that has been the theme of pre-season, and it was becoming a real issue in the back end of last season as well. So I think we're going to be vulnerable at the back. We're always strong attacking wise from set pieces, so that'll be something for you guys to watch out for. But we're not as robust when it comes to defending set pieces as we were for the first 2 or 3 years in the Premier League. We're that fell away a bit last season with so many injuries. I think that the understanding, particularly in the back line, was really challenged last season, and that I expect that will probably be the case until we get our 2 fullbacks back, which probably be about a month's time.
Yeah. So I think, as you mentioned, set pieces is one area for us to look at as well. We conceded in our latest friendly. It was a major concern last season as well by conceding a lot of goals. We have improved under Oliver Glasner, but there's still question marks there. So if I think the game could be easily won and lost there. But let's get your predictions then, Lewis. How do you see this one going? We spoke about your pre-season, your transfer business, and just the overall mood going into this game. How do you see it actually going? You're playing at home, first game of
Yeah,
the season. I remember a few, few starts to Brentford against big oppositions where you've turned up and you surprised a lot of people. Are you expecting something similar?
I think home advantage will be important. I think, going to Selhurst Park has, it's one of the most intimidating grounds in the country in its own way because of the vocal support of the fans. So being at home will give us a huge advantage, I think. I mean, I think history shows that it's very likely to be a draw. I think 5 out of the
Yes.
6 games we played against you ended that way, and then you turned us over at Selhurst Park last season. But I think we might edge it tomorrow. On Sunday, and that is important because we've got a string of like really tough away fixtures. I think our first 4 are all against teams that finished top 6 last season. So we need to pick up points at home. We've got yourselves, we've got Southampton, 1 or 2 other fixtures against teams, who are middle or perhaps lower end of the table. So we've got to get points from those. And I think we might edge it, but I think that's the heart talking. I think the head says, well, it could easily be a draw again. But I think we'll have enough to not get beaten.
Yeah, I think I made my prediction on our match preview. And then I was reminded by someone from the channel saying, are you forgetting about the most recent results against Brentford? And I thought, yeah, I did forget about that. I mean, we love a draw. I don't know what it is. We just love to draw against each other. But I said 2-1 in my prediction to Palace. Of course, it's the opening day of the season. I'm just gonna back the boys. But as you said, I think it will be a tightly contested game, and for different reasons. You look at your fixture list, looking at this game, I think it'll be nice, especially at home, to get 3 points. I'm looking at our fixture list and some of the players that we have available and your weaknesses. I think there's both sides can of course aim for the 3 points. But what was your actual prediction then? Are you going to go for the draw? Are you going to go for
I'm
one?
going to go 3-2 Brentford. I think there will be. I think there'll be more goals than we're used to in this particular fixture because of the strengths and weaknesses, certainly at our end, that we've been talking about. And, seeing you guys score a lot of goals towards the end of last season. Yeah, I think it's going to be tight, but I could see it being a higher scoring game than before. So I'll go 3-2.
3-2 Brentford. I'm going 2-1 Palace. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you, Lewis, for joining us for this opposition preview. Make sure to check out the Beesotted Brentford podcast. The link will be in the description down below. And until next time, up the Palace.